Speaking English with Ada.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Speak English with Anna. I am so incredibly excited for today's episode because we are talking about something that touches every single one of us, how to actually change your life. But before we dive into the deep stuff, I want to welcome my wonderful co-host for today, Mike. How are you doing, Mike?
Hey, Anna. I'm doing fantastic. Honestly, I'm feeling a bit more energized than usual today. I think I finally cracked the code to starting my morning the right way.
Oh, I can see that. You have this glow about you today. What's the secret? Did you double your coffee intake or something?
Actually, it's the opposite. I decided to stop living on autopilot. You know that feeling when you wake up and the first thing you do is reach for your phone, scroll through emails, or check social media for 20 minutes?
Guilty as charged. I think most of us are stuck in that loop. It's like our brains are programmed to look for stress the moment we open our eyes.
Exactly. So last night, I decided to put my phone in a different room. This morning, instead of reacting to the world, I just sat with my thoughts for a few minutes and went for a short walk. It's a small shift, but I feel like I'm actually in the driver's seat of my life today rather than just being a passenger.
I love that. In the driver's seat. That is such a powerful image. And it's funny you mention that because I've been trying something similar. Instead of jumping straight into the news or social media, which can be so draining, I've started playing some upbeat music while I make my breakfast. It's a tiny change, but it completely shifts my mood from, oh no, another long day, to, okay, let's see what I can achieve today.
That's the perfect example of what we're talking about today, Anna. People often think that to change your life, you need to make these massive, dramatic moves, like quitting your job or moving to a different country. But really, it starts with these tiny, almost invisible decisions we make in the first hour of our day.
Precisely, and that is what today's episode is all about. We're going to break down why we feel stuck, how to rewire our brains for success, and most importantly, how to use the English language to express these big ideas. Whether you want to improve your career, your health, or your fluency in English, the principles are the same.
I'm ready. We've got some great concepts to cover, from the 1% rule to overcoming that nagging fear of failure. It's going to be a transformative conversation.
It really is. So if you're listening at home, or maybe you're on your way to work, take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's get started. This is how you change your life, step by step. So Mike, let's get into the heart of the matter. Why is it that so many of us feel stuck? We have these big dreams and we watch all these motivational videos, but it often feels like we're just running in place.
I think the biggest culprit, and the one most people are afraid to admit, is the fear of failure. It's not just about the fear of losing money or time, it's about the ego. We're terrified of looking foolish in front of our friends, or even worse, proving to ourselves that we aren't good enough to achieve what we want.
That is so true. We stay in our comfort zones because they're safe, even if those zones are actually making us miserable. But I also think there's an issue with how we define our goals. I talk to students all the time who say, Anna, I just want to be successful, or I want to speak better English.
And those are what I call blurry goals. If your target is blurry, you're basically throwing darts in a dark room. You can't hit a bullseye if you can't even see the board. Without a clear, specific direction, your brain doesn't know which path to take, so it takes the path of least resistance, which is doing nothing.
Exactly. And when we do nothing, that internal critic starts waking up. We've all experienced that negative self-talk. It's that voice in your head that whispers, "You're not smart enough for this," or "Remember what happened last time you tried? You failed. Why bother trying again?"
That internal dialogue is like a slow-acting poison. We would never let a friend or a stranger talk to us the way we talk to ourselves, yet we allow our own minds to sabotage our progress every single day. We become our own worst enemies.
I also want to touch on something you mentioned earlier about autopilot. A lot of people feel stuck because they are waiting for a feeling. They say, I'll start my workout when I feel motivated, or I'll study English when I'm in the right mood.
That is probably the biggest lie we tell ourselves. Motivation is a fair weather friend. It shows up when things are easy and the sun is shining, but it disappears the moment things get difficult. If you wait to feel like doing something before you do it, you might be waiting for the rest of your life.
Right. People have it backwards. They think motivation leads to action, but in reality, action is what creates motivation. You have to start moving while you're still tired, while you're still scared, and while you're still unmotivated.
It's about breaking that cycle of analysis paralysis. We spend so much time thinking about why we're stuck that we forget that the simplest way to get unstuck is just to take one tiny, imperfect step forward.
And that leads us perfectly into our next point. Once we understand why we are stuck, whether it's fear, blurry goals, or negative talk, we can start looking at how to actually move the needle. That makes so much sense, Mike. You know, I often think of change like watering a plant. You don't just dump a gallon of water on a seed and expect it to become a tree by tomorrow morning.
Definitely not. If you did that, you'd probably just drown the poor thing. It's the small, daily watering, even when you don't see anything popping out of the soil yet, that actually makes the growth happen.
Exactly. And this brings us to a concept I know you're a big fan of, the 1% rule.
I love this concept. It's popularized by the book Atomic Habits. Most people think that to get big results, you need big actions. But if you just improve by 1% every single day, by the end of a year, you are actually 37 times better than when you started.
37 times. That's an incredible transformation. It really takes the pressure off, doesn't it? You don't have to be a master today. You just have to be 1% better than you were yesterday.
It really does. It changes the focus from the outcome to the process. Instead of worrying about speaking perfect English, you focus on learning 5 new words today. That is a win you can actually achieve.
And those small wins start to change how we see ourselves. In Atomic Habits, the author talks about identity-based habits. If you want to be a writer, don't focus on writing a whole book. Focus on being the person who writes for 10 minutes every morning.
That is a total game changer. If you do that, you stop saying, I am trying to learn English, and you start saying, I am an English speaker. Even if you are still a beginner, the fact that you show up every day proves that new identity to your own mind.
I've seen this with so many of my students. The ones who succeed aren't always the ones with the most free time. They're the ones who make English a small, non-negotiable part of their daily routine, like brushing their teeth.
Exactly. Consistency is the magic ingredient. A small habit performed consistently is infinitely more powerful than a massive effort performed once and then abandoned because it was too difficult to maintain.
So, for everyone listening, what is your 1% today? Maybe it's just finishing this podcast episode or looking up one word you didn't understand. Those tiny pebbles eventually build a mountain. We have talked a lot about the actions you take and the habits you build. But now I want to talk about the engine that drives all of that, the mind. Because if your mindset isn't right, even the best habits won't stick.
You are absolutely right. Everything we do starts as a thought. There's a concept that is very popular in psychology right now, the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset.
I love this topic. For those listening who might not be familiar with the terms, can you explain the difference, Mike?
In a fixed mindset, you believe your abilities, your intelligence, and your talents are just fixed traits. You think, I'm just not a math person, or I'm just not good at languages. But in a growth mindset, you believe that your basic qualities are things you can cultivate through effort and practice.
And that is so important for learning English. If you have a fixed mindset, every mistake feels like proof that you aren't good enough. But with a growth mindset, a mistake is just data. It's just a sign that you need more practice.
Exactly. And there's actually a part of our brain that helps us with this. It's called the RAS, the Reticular Activating System. It's like a filter for your brain.
That sounds very scientific, but it's actually very practical. Your RAS basically looks for evidence of what you believe is important. If you decide that the world is a difficult place where you always fail, your brain will literally filter out the opportunities and only show you the problems.
So, to change your life, you have to reprogram that filter. And we can do that with a few simple tools. The first one is affirmations.
I know some people think affirmations are a bit cheesy, but they really work. It's about replacing that negative self-talk we discussed earlier with positive, intentional statements.
Right. Instead of saying, I am terrible at public speaking, you start saying, I am becoming a more confident speaker every single day. You are feeding your brain a new script.
And then there's visualization. This is a tool used by top athletes and CEOs all over the world. Before I start a big project or even record this podcast, I spend a few minutes with my eyes closed, picturing it going well. I imagine the words flowing easily and our listeners feeling inspired.
It's like a mental rehearsal. When you visualize something vividly, your brain starts to believe it is possible. It prepares your nervous system for success before you even start.
And the final tool, the one that I think has the biggest impact, is gratitude.
Gratitude is the ultimate game changer. It is psychologically impossible to feel fear and gratitude at the exact same time.
That is a powerful thought. When you practice gratitude, maybe by writing down 3 things you're thankful for every night, you're training your RAS to look for the good. You stop focusing on what you lack and start focusing on the abundance you already have.
And when you feel abundant and capable, taking those small steps we talked about earlier becomes so much easier. You aren't acting out of desperation, you're acting out of inspiration.
We've covered so much ground, from habits to mindset, but there is one giant wall that many people hit before they even start. It's the trap of perfectionism.
Oh, perfectionism is the ultimate dream killer. It's that voice that says, if I can't do it perfectly, I shouldn't do it at all. People wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or until they feel perfectly ready.
But here's the secret. The perfect moment is a myth. It doesn't exist. If you wait until everything is aligned, you will be waiting forever. I always tell my students that done is better than perfect.
Exactly. I like to call it the messy start. You have to give yourself permission to be bad at something before you can be good at it. If you're starting a new fitness journey, your first workout will be messy. If you're practicing English, your first few conversations will be full of mistakes. And that is perfectly okay.
It's more than okay. It's necessary. You can't reach fluency without making those mistakes. A lot of people think they need confidence before they take action, but it's actually the other way around. Confidence is a result of action, not a prerequisite for it.
That is such a crucial point. You don't get confident by thinking about doing something. You get confident by doing it and realizing you survived. Every time you take a step, even an imperfect one, you're building something called momentum.
Momentum is like a snowball rolling down a hill. At first, you have to push it really hard to get it moving. It's heavy, it's slow, and it feels like a lot of work for very little progress.
But once it starts rolling, it picks up more snow. It gets bigger and faster, and eventually it starts moving on its own. That's how change feels. The first week of a new habit is the hardest because you have zero momentum. You are relying entirely on willpower.
But by week 3 or 4, the momentum takes over. It becomes harder to not do the habit than it is to do it. You've built this internal energy that keeps you going.
So if you're listening and you feel like you're struggling to get started, just remember that you only need enough energy to push the snowball 1 inch. Don't worry about the whole mountain. Just focus on that first, messy, imperfect push.
I love that. Don't let the fear of being not good enough stop you from becoming better. Just get the ball rolling. We've talked a lot about what happens inside our heads, but we can't ignore what is happening outside of them. Mike, have you ever heard that saying about the 5 people we spend the most time with?
Oh, absolutely. It's a classic for a reason. They say you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If those 5 people are constantly complaining, negative, and unmotivated, it is almost impossible for you to stay positive and driven.
It really is like gravity. They pull you down to their level without you even realizing it. But it's not just about the physical people in our lives anymore. In this digital age, the people we spend time with are often the ones we follow on social media or the creators we watch on YouTube.
That is such a great point. Our environment isn't just our physical surroundings, it's our digital surroundings too. That brings us to the concept of an information diet.
I love that term. Just like we have to be careful about the food we put into our bodies, making sure we eat our vegetables and avoid too much sugar, we have to be very careful about the information we put into our brains.
Think about it. If you start your day by reading negative news, scrolling through celebrity drama, or watching people argue online, you are basically feeding your brain junk food. It makes your mind feel sluggish, anxious, and cynical.
Exactly. And if you're trying to change your life or learn a new skill, you need high-quality fuel. You need nutritional information, things that inspire you, teach you something new, or help you grow.
That's why choosing to listen to a podcast like this one is a win for your information diet. Instead of consuming mindless entertainment, you are immersing yourself in English and learning about personal development at the same time. You are choosing to spend your time with people who want to see you succeed.
And you can curate this everywhere. Unfollow the accounts that make you feel not good enough and follow the ones that provide value. Clean up your YouTube feed. Join communities of learners who are on the same path as you.
When you change your environment, you stop fighting against the current. If everyone around you is moving forward, you'll find yourself moving forward too, almost effortlessly. It makes consistency so much easier when your surroundings support your goals.
So take a look at your digital plate today. Is it full of junk or is it helping you grow? You have the power to change the channel of your life, literally. Now it is time for one of my favorite parts of the show, the word tour. This is where we take some of the key terms we use today and break them down so you can start using them in your own English conversations. Mike, do you want to start us off with the first one?
I would love to. Let's start with a word I used right at the beginning, autopilot. When you are on autopilot, you're doing things without thinking, like a habit you've done 1,000 times. An example sentence would be, I was so tired this morning that I drove to work on autopilot.
That is a classic one. My first word is stuck. We talked about feeling stuck in life. It means you are in a position where you cannot move or change. You feel like you are in a trap. For example, many people feel stuck in their jobs because they are afraid to try something new.
Great word. Next up is mindset. This is your collection of thoughts and beliefs that shape your habits. We talked about the growth mindset. You could say, developing a growth mindset helped her realize that mistakes are just part of the learning process.
I love that. Let's look at affirmation. An affirmation is a positive statement that you say to yourself to build confidence and challenge negative thoughts. An example is, he starts every morning with a simple affirmation. I am capable of handling whatever today brings.
Very powerful. Let's talk about momentum. This is the strength or force that something has when it is moving. In personal growth, it's the energy you get from consistent action. For example, once he started exercising every day, he gained the momentum he needed to change his diet as well.
And our final word for today is environment. Usually this means nature, but today we used it to describe the people, things, and information that surround you. An example sentence is, if you want to improve your English, you should create an environment where you listen to English podcasts every day.
That is a perfect selection of words, Anna. If our listeners can master these terms, they would not only speak better English, but they will also have the vocabulary to talk about their own journey of change.
Exactly. Don't just listen to these words. Try to use them in a comment or write them down in your journal today. Well, we have covered so much today, Mike, from the 1% rule to the power of our digital environment. I think the message is clear.
It really is. Change doesn't have to be loud or dramatic. It doesn't require a perfect plan or a special talent. It just requires the courage to start small and keep going.
Exactly. If you're listening to this and feeling overwhelmed, just remember you don't have to change your whole life by tomorrow. You just have to change one small thing today.
Whether that's practicing your English for 5 minutes or just choosing to be kinder to yourself and your thoughts, you have the power to steer your life in a new direction.
That is a beautiful way to put it. Thank you so much for joining me today, Mike. This has been such an inspiring conversation.
Thank you for having me, Anna. It's been a pleasure.
And to all our listeners at Speak English with Anna, thank you for spending your time with us. If you found this episode helpful, please make sure to subscribe and share it with someone who might need a little boost today.
We can't wait to hear about your 1% wins. Keep moving forward.
We believe in you. Until next time, keep practicing, keep growing, and bye for now.